Welcome to this webcast, where today we'll be discussing identity verification, its implications and requirements for banks, and with a specific focus on what does a bank compliance team need to look into to deal with this topic. My name is Christian Sorensen. I'm head of product at Iron Group. And together with me, I have one of my esteemed colleagues and resident experts, Jan Kjærsgaard. Jan, can you say a few words about yourself and your expertise in this area?
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here, Christian. Jan Kjærsgaard. I've been working with electronic identities and trust services for almost 20 years. And as part of that, electronic signatures. And one topic which always comes to the table when dealing with electronic signatures is, where do you get the identities from? How do you know who has signed something? And that's the nature of this webcast. Where do the identities come from? So I'm really happy to be here and talk about the latest development in, regulatory and standard requirements, which can be leveraged on from many organizations, including financial institutions.
I remember, more than 20 years ago, when I was part of building some of the first online banks in Denmark, onboarding customers directly in the online channel was a whole new experience, and it has certainly not become easier or less complicated regulatory-wise in the past 20 years. So can you tell me a bit about what has happened in the regulatory space? It's not just the number of requirements, but it's also changing requirements that we're facing today.
So what we have seen, I would say it emerged before the pandemic, and it's really accelerated during the pandemic, is that the appetite for financial institutions to onboard customers without having expensive branches around was taking off. And as part of that, of course, you want to be able to onboard your customers without them going to the banks. You want to do it remotely, where you can sit at home and do some kind of process and be onboarded to the banks. And what we have seen is that, I would say, two regulations has come out and which regulate our daily business when we do digital transactions. So there's the one on eIDAS, Electronic Identities and Trust Services, where we have received a new version which, I would say, increases the level of certainty that you have to do when you do identity verification. Next to that, there's also for banks the anti-money laundering that they need to look into. And there we have seen that I think it's more than 20 new industries which has been added to the regulation, that if banks do not pay attention and they work with some of these new businesses, they can be liable to support money laundering, and they don't, of course, want to be in that situation. So both laws are there, and they have to work with them. Secondly, the processes that we have seen for doing identity verification has also changed. Today, the attacks that you can do is much more sophisticated than what you saw, I would say, just a few years ago. You have to be careful on the device that the user has, the camera, which is taking pictures of maybe the identity document that you are presenting, which may take video capturing of your face. It's holograms on the and other security characteristics that you have with the identity documents, and the transmission of the data from the device that you have at hand to the bank's system. So there's a lot of technical requirements that you have to do really right in order to have an identity verification done to the assurance level that you are really looking after.
Yeah, and this change in threats and complexity and regulation must put a massive pressure on the compliance teams to deal with this.
I mean, it's really hard to monitor and adapt to the development that you see in the attack landscape. It is developing, I would say, even more rapidly now with AI, which is, I mean, everywhere and can be used in all the different topics around the identity verification that I just mentioned before. So these identity verification systems, they have to be robust enough and continuously adapted to mitigate the attack landscape as is evolving.
And adding another dimension of complexity is probably also ensuring that the user journey still works, that the users, and we are probably all becoming more and more impatient with online services. We want instant gratification. We want it to work immediately. So too many obstacles can probably mean that I would never onboard to a bank. So how do we strike the right balance?
Of course, for I mean, any online business, if you only have, I would say, a turn rate of I don't know, 50% from when a customer has, shown the appetite to buy goods or to be onboarded, if your turn rate is only 50%, you wouldn't be satisfied. And of course, the identity verification process, which is crucial for financial institutions to get users onboarded, if that fails, I don't know, for many reasons, the capture or the video capture of the face did not match correctly to the passport, and if these things fails and the user is not onboarded, then the bank loses the customers, and we cannot have that. So of course, when we build identity verification systems, we have to look into that the conversion rate is always high.
You mentioned a word, assurance. Assurance levels is what we hear a lot. So can you take me through this concept of assurance levels and what does it mean?
Yeah. So assurance level comes with in three different levels. So there is low, substantial, and high. And the idea is that with a certain level of assurance, you can get access to something. And then the higher level of assurance, you can get access to more personal data, more sensitive, more that data that you as a citizen wants to protect. So for instance, if it's, I don't know, healthcare data, you want to have really high level of assurance. If it's access to voting systems, you want a high level of assurance. And of course, if it's your money, you want to have a high level of assurance. And these levels are defined in this regulation that from the EU, EIDAS, which is about electronic identities, among other stuff. And to get the highest level of assurance is really difficult. From normally, you would expect, in order to have the highest level of assurance, you would go to a branch in the bank or to the city hall or wherever you go there physically, and you will take your identity document with you and present it, and there will be educated staff there that will check the document, compare what they see on the document to you being there. And all this has now moved from being in the physical world to be remotely using computer equipment and mobile devices instead. So it has really changed a lot.
So it means that if a bank onboards a customer using an IDV solution that enables them to onboard them on level of assurance high, they will basically have a customer with the proof of identity similar to a national identity scheme, or even better.
Yeah, they will have it with the same assurance as they would if you went to a branch and showed your documents. Completely the same.
Okay, so that also means that you can use that identity you create with your bank for other purposes because of that level.
Yeah, if the bank needs that.
Yeah,
that's
of
true.
course.
Yeah, of course you can. So, but doing it right, as I mentioned, is really difficult. The good thing is that we do have help there. So there are standards out there which has been made.
And you would know, you've written them.
Well, not this one, but I've been following what was written there. So there is a European standard now for identity verification, which has been referenced in the law, sort of with an implementing act, and that means that if you follow this standard, the identity verification system that you do meets the requirement in the regulation. So with that standard, and if you follow that, you can have an identity verification with a level of assurance that you need. And we at Iron Group has developed our identity verification system to actually meet the requirements in the standard, and are among the first one to be certified or conformity assessed to meet the requirements in that standard. So we're extremely pleased that we can bring that to the market to help our clients.
So the solution doesn't just do the ID verification, actually mitigate some of the compliance pressure from the banks because of this conformity assessment.
Yeah, I mean, so banks can leverage on the work that we have done in building it, following the requirements in the standard, and I'll say the struggle that we have been through to have an independent conformity assessment, an auditing company that came to us and looked after how we have met those requirements, and of course issued the certificate that we have for this. So,
when we've talked a lot about onboarding, but I assume that the banks today, they will often in certain countries, they are actually mandated to do revalidation of identities with a certain frequency, depending on the risk profile of a given customer.
Yeah, I think that's part of the KYC that the banks have to do on a regular basis, where you submit information about yourself. And here, identity verification can, of course, be reused, so you can have a remote session where you can go through an identity verification, and the bank can then set a check mark. We have done it.
And also this identity verification process can also pull in data from other sources, politically exposed persons, sanctions lists, and so on, so that you have even stronger assurance when onboarding new customers.
Yes, and that's also something that financial institutions need to look into. And I mean, when we do the identity verification, I mean, we look at an identity document, for instance, a passport or identity card or whatever you have, and we compare the data, the pictures that we see or can extract from that document, or that even the chip, which is, I mean, even more secure. We extract that and we compare that to a video stream to ensure that the person which sits behind the camera is the one holding the document and which has been issued this document for. And whenever we can, it's not all member states in EU that provides that source, but whenever we can also check whether the identity document is still valid or it has been withdrawn, so overwrote. So we can do additional checks beyond, looking into registers about the person.
So one thing is the complexity that we are facing now, but in a not too distant future, these same regulations, the IADES regulation you mentioned before, also stipulates that all European citizens should be offered a digital identity wallet, and banks must accept this as a means of identification. Yeah. Does that mean that the banks should just hold on and wait for the wallet to come and solve everything?
I wouldn't recommend that. So it is true that every member state has to provide identity wallets to their citizens. And I know that there's also dates in the regulation that dictates when the member state should do that. However, the infrastructure, the standards, the requirements for the wallets is not settled yet. And the deadline is extremely ambitious. Next to having the standards and the requirements in place is also how do you get this identity wallet certified. That is not clear either. Some member states are working on their own national certification schemes, and there's also pan-European work being done on this. None of that is ready now. We are working on the standards, we are working on this scheme, and Iron Group is, of course, participating in that, but it's not there yet. So when will it be there? It's unclear. So to sit and wait for something which we don't know when will be there, I wouldn't recommend. That's first point. Secondly, while the wallet will be offered free of charge to the citizens. It's not maybe everybody that wants a wallet. It's free for the citizen to choose whether they want one. So for banks, of course, they want to be able to offer their service to as wide an audience as possible, and to leave people out just because they choose not to have a wallet. No, they shouldn't do that. So, of course, identity verification systems like ours can be used. And by the way, how do a user get a wallet? You also need to have an identity verification process to obtain one. And there, again, systems like what we are providing can be used.
But also, I mean, if, I've had the pleasure of discussing wallets with banks for 15 years now as part of the global organization MOBE Forum, where we've had this wallet expert group or digital wallet expert group for close to 15 years now. And initially, the vision for the banks about wallets comprised a lot of different features. But then we spent the next 10 years getting the payment part working. But now the identity part of wallets seems to be back in focus thanks to the eIDAS regulation. Yeah. But I cannot help becoming maybe a little cynical these days, because it seems like the hype about what the identity wallet can actually do may be too big, and I for one believe that the banks need to be prepared for a long transition period before an identity wallet will become as dominant as the payment wallets are today.
No, I don't think that will happen. No. So there are some requirements that these identity wallets they need to fulfill, and it's a long list. It's quite demanding, and of course one of the features that you have is the ability to being an identity wallet is that you can store, combine, share data that you have in the wallet. But that's not the same as initiating a transaction, which is I'll say one of the major roles of the payment wallets that we see. So the identity wallets, which by the way need to be certified, you want to, because of certification, you want to limit the scope of the struggle you need to go through to have your wallet certified. So from my perspective, while you can have an identity wallet which can be used for electronic payments, I doubt that most member states will finance that. I mean, why should the state pay for something which is not their business and actually not required by law for them to do? So I think you will still see banks have their own wallets.
Yeah.
For the next, I don't know, decade.
Yeah. And even with the popularity and rising popularity of payment wallets, there is still a lot of physical card transactions, and even in many countries, still a lot of cash transactions. So we will need to focus on coexistence rather than competition between these.
And I mean, bank wallets, that they have a different life cycle than what you would expect from an identity wallet. Banks, they want to be able to add features whenever they can see a business demand for it. And they don't want to go through a certification every time a product manager comes up with a new great idea. No, they want to make the app go into the market as fast as they can, evaluate whether it meets its purpose, and they can justify their investment to even roll it out even more. They want to do that in the way they have done it the last, 18 years since we saw the first smartphones. And that's a completely different life cycle than what you'll see for identity wallets. Because of the certification requirements, because of the security requirements, is much more demanding. They will have a much tougher life cycles before they can be put into the market, and they will not be updated as frequently as with the payment wallets.
So maybe the identity wallet will become more of an enabler wallet, so to speak, to other wallets. So we are perhaps facing a wallet of wallets.
I mean that's so absolutely. So the wallet has three main functional areas. So the first one is above everything else, it's an identity wallet. So you can use it to log into systems once you have one. Then it's being a wallet, you can store data, etc., and and share and combine it and use that for many interesting use cases. And then the last one is you can also use it for creating digital signatures. So these are the main functionalities of the wallet. It's not about transferring money. That's not for the state to.
But regardless of how the wallet landscape will play out, the need for strong verification of the identities of whomever you onboard, be that into a wallet or as a bank customer, those requirements will only increase. And for that, you need a good solution.
Yeah. And that's what we have made and been through a certification for. So we are really happy that we have put that into to our offering together with our remote signing solution, that we have, I would say, top of the art digital services for our clients.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jan, for taking the time and explaining some of the dynamics in this fast-moving market. And I hope that you've all enjoyed listening to this. And if you have any questions about the product, let us know, and we are happy to continue the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Pleasure to be here.